Welcome back to the DG Hamblin Show. I am DG Hamblin, and I want to thank you for being patient and understanding as my friend Ron and I try to figure this out, and as we try to figure out sound and set and lighting and such. Do us a favor. Please leave some comments. Let us know how we can improve, some constructive criticism about things that we can do to make this a better experience for you, whether it be the set, the way that we look, the sound, or even, most important of all to me, the topics of discussion, so that we are doing things and talking about things that you'll want to hear. So, with that said, comment away. Roll the video. So you said you read books. What was the first novel you remember reading? Do you remember?
There's only a few books from my childhood that stick out. And I don't know if you call them novels or not, but I mean it was a full length book.
Yeah.
The one book that I specifically remember reading as a child was it's called Runaway.
Okay.
It was about a young boy who ran away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And estranged, I think it was a tiger.
Okay.
And this kid had found an old abandoned mansion and was living in this mansion, and so was this tiger.
Okay.
And somehow or another, or cheetah, I believe. And somehow or another they bonded. I don't remember the whole story, but this story was about an animal and a human sharing a combined, a like experience, because the cheetah was either an outcast or lost or whatever, because the cheetah was in an area where it shouldn't be. But the cheetah had found a way to survive in the environment that he was in, and this kid was finding a way to survive in this environment he was in. Both of them were environments they were not supposed to be in.
Right.
And they made a movie about it, and I think I watched it, and it made me mad because the movie did not even come close to hitting what the story was about.
Right.
But I remember that book. And then the other book I remember the most when I was in the 8th grade is 1984 by George Orwell.
Okay.
And that's a hard
You read it in 8th grade?
8th grade.
Wow.
My 8th grade teacher came to me and she said, "Look, this is not the kind of stuff we give to 8th graders." She said, "But I already know that this is your kind of stuff."
Yeah.
And boy, was that a hard read.
So, I mean, you understood then the political implications of it in 8th grade and, and all that? Yeah. And did that have an effect then on forming your political identity or your idea of politics and how things ought to be run? How things ought to be done politically? Because you already had
There's two kinds of politics. There's politics you watch on TV and people up there making the decision, and then there's the politics you and I do between each other day to day.
Okay, I'm thinking about on a governmental scale, because you already had
I didn't care about government.
Okay, but you already had a sense of rights by then, because you told us about the conversation you had.
Children's rights.
And so what did you get from that book? What lessons did you learn from it at that age? Because I don't know that I would have learned. I remember reading the book, and my problem was it didn't catch my attention right away, and so I didn't get as much out of it as I should have. I read it because it was required reading. And
1984 was a very good book for the perversion of political power to the level that they wanted to control people's thoughts. If you read that, and then you go back and read his other book, Animal Farm.
Yeah,
one of his other books. You've read Animal Farm?
Mm-hmm.
Which shows how the people can be drawn into and become what they are fighting against.
Right.
And what I learned was that people are gullible. Human beings as a whole, and humanity, as far as I'm concerned, today, humanity is just a disease. It's a self-replicating disease. And I mean, I'm not saying it's something that has to be stomped out. I'm just saying that if the predominant thing that we're seeing in life today is bad. Humans are taking advantage of killing everything constantly, and it's growing and growing and growing and growing. When I was a child, it was still on the cusp, because you watched the news and it was a bunch of good stories with occasional bad stuff thrown in to let you know what was going on.
Right.
Now it's nothing but bad stuff. Only bad sells. Nobody wants to watch the story of the kid that survived cancer. They want to watch a story of the guy that went in and shot 3 people at a racetrack for what, and they want to know why. So you got a prevalence of this kind of news, and the occurrences of these stories has increased too. If you go back in history and you find out they didn't just hide the reality of life, it just didn't happen that much. You know, kids used to. I carried a gun to school when I was a kid. I had it in the back of my truck, hunting rifle.
Right. Yeah, we all did.
Now, if you say gun, it's a threat.
Right.
Because it went from having guns for a specific reason and being respectful to taking a gun to make a point or show something or make yourself famous, even if it ends up killing you. So the whole humanity has turned into this. It's turned into self, way more into self than it used to be. It's going from community, what can I do for my community, to what can I do for me?
Right, and what can everybody else do for me? It's all very, very self-centered.
Which is 180 degrees out of what the Bible is.
Right. It's none of it's about you.
You know,
it's always about.
Somebody asked me one time why I don't go to church, and I said because church as a whole is lost. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if you can show me a community where instead of churches split up because Billy Bob don't agree with Preacher Joe, and they open up a new church, you show me a community where these people are bringing these churches together. You got a bunch of empty little churches and a bigger church where they're all together. And then I want to walk in and see turmoil and strife and fight. That's when I know things are getting better. So because people are having problems and coming together to fix the problems instead of splitting up because of those problems.
So strife inside of the church.
Yes, there should be.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Because it's
we don't want to have to deal with it.
Right, and it's just a natural byproduct of human interaction. We're not all going to agree on everything, and there's going to be
we shouldn't
discontent.
Either, yeah.
We shouldn't. No.
Or we're into a world full of boredom.
Yeah, and we're again the whole idea of self. When I look at society now, especially here in our country, there's this real idea that you're either on my side or you're not on my side, and if you're not on my side, then you're a bad person.
Yes.
And that's horrible. And I think that there are those who want that, because then when you can divide people that way, you can create that division, then you can control them.
Yes.
And people don't understand that, and it's like, how do you make them wake up?
Yes.
You know, how do you explain it? This is what's wrong. We should, Adams and Jefferson had some pretty strong differences and disagreements, but they were still close friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's those differences that can bring you together instead of moving you apart. I think it's the desire to be, I don't know what word to use, not better or above, but I don't know, more elevated than the people around you. For some reason or another, people want to feel like they're, above is the right word. They don't really think that way, but that's what they're doing. And in my opinion, you're supposed to be bringing everybody together to a level that you can agree on. That's what makes a team. You know, you might have a great quarterback, but if you don't have a great receiver, the quarterback's irrelevant.
Right.
But to make the receiver work properly, if the receiver is not as good as the quarterback has to scale back.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll scale back until they find a place that works with this, and all of a sudden they're doing better than they were before. So everybody's coming down. People are coming down. Some are coming up. Some are coming down. But if the quarterback thinks he's supposed to be on top and some kind of Superman, it doesn't matter because he's going to be throwing balls at empty turf.
Right. Or, he can't win the game all by himself.
Yes. If he doesn't realize, hey, I need to come back to find where this guy and me and I can meet to create a process that works.
Yeah.
Okay? But that's not what happens. Everybody's wanting to move away and be better than each other.
Right. Also, to build on your analogy a little bit, I think, using football, sometimes, in fact, more often than not, any particular player is not necessarily doing the thing. For example, a receiver is not going to be catching a ball every single play. He will spend more plays either trying to divert attention to another part of the field or blocking or doing some other thing that's not going to benefit his personal statistics, but it elevates the team.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be the person, it seems to me, nowadays, rather than understand that we all have different roles that we play that are going to benefit other people, and that by benefiting other people, we'll end up benefiting ourselves. And then that has to come from a sense of has to come from, has to be voluntary. Those things have to be voluntary.
Yes.
You know, so, one of the problems that I have is that we have those in government who I think want to force that, or people have this idea that you have to force that kind of thing on others, and if we force them to do it, then you're getting the same beneficent result as if people do it voluntarily, and that's not true. Anytime you're forcing people, force in of itself is evil, and the result's going to be evil.
You're trying to educate them into doing something they should be inspired to do.
Yeah, or just legislate it. You know, we're going to force people to drive electric cars. Well, now you're just going to create resentment in a lot of people, and we're going down a whole rabbit hole there with all that stuff. But
the rabbit hole the rabbit hole is about the politics that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That they're doing. To stay out of the rabbit hole, you go back to what's important, which is trying to force people to be what they say are good people.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody who reduces their carbon footprint is a good person. Someone who throws a cup out the window is going to hell. That's how it seems.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to force you to be the good person.
Right. And they want to force everybody else into their own idea of what a good person is, or what's good for the world, or what's good for whatever, and they totally become blind, willfully blind to the detriment that they're causing. For example, we could legislate and totally do away with all fossil fuels, but man, what would that do to our society?
It's screeching all.
In cheap, affordable energy and access to it is what builds developing nations and brings them out of complete abject poverty. But we want to force this idea of everything has to be solar or wind or renewable, and not just renewable from nature, and then that just leaves developing nations undeveloped.
Yeah, they have no way to get out of the hole.
And then that makes me wonder, well, is that the purpose? Is the purpose
to keep us on top?
To keep them on top, to be able to control. Again, I see so many things as being geared to allow people to control others, and if we were to say nationalize the power grid, which some say that's what's going to happen eventually, that's probably going to happen in Europe here real soon. And if everything has to be green and everything's tightly controlled and everything runs on electricity, well, all of a sudden, if I don't fall in line politically, then they can just simply switch off my electric car, or they could turn off my electricity. And now I can't heat my home or cool it in the summertime or go to work. And then we end up like certain nations who have that kind of
they're already
control.
doing stuff like that. They just had a big to-do. I don't remember where it was, some state. And they tried to talk people into voluntarily allowing the power company to control their thermostat.
The thermostats, yeah.
So under the guise of energy saving, they could cut it back. Now, that's not a new technology.
Oh, yeah, no.
Back when I was a kid, we had Walton EMC came out and put this box on our air conditioner and on our water heater.
Yeah.
And it was set up that at certain times in the day, it would shut it down for a few and all that kind of stuff, but it was pre-programmed.
Yeah.
They just got into a big deal because in a hot snap we had not long ago, the power company decided at peak that they wanted to shut everybody down, and they couldn't adjust their thermostat.
Right. And what they found out, I remember hearing about that. That was in parts of California.
Yeah.
And they had gone around to people and say, hey, would you like to save money on your power bill? Oh, sure. We'll just sign this piece of paper, sign this form, and they would sign without reading, and it gave them complete access and control. And now...
Of course you're going to save power on your power bill if they shut your power off.
Right, yeah. If your thermostat's set to 85 degrees when it's 95 outside, yeah. No.
And they
No,
fell
thank
for
you.
it, and now they're upset about it because they found out after it happened
Yeah.
because they didn't do their due diligence and find out what they were signing.
Right. Yeah, that's what you get for living in California anyway. That's my opinion.
I'm not a fan of California. I was born there, but I got out while the getting was good.
Yeah. There's a lot of California that's beautiful and pretty. I'd like to go visit, but
Oh, yeah.
I probably won't because I would, yeah, no.
One of my little Facebook sayings is Earth. It's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah.
It's getting that way.
You know, yeah. There are times when I think I'd like to just pack everything up. If I had the money, I'd buy myself a mountain in West Virginia, and I'd just go live on it.
Yeah, me and my wife, told her the same thing.
You like West Virginia?
Virginia, West Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah, West Virginia.
The top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And if I need electricity, well, I've got a creek at the top of the mountain, and I've got 1,500 feet of fall. I can generate a lot of energy in 1,500 feet to spin a little turbine to create me some electricity.
And you'd be green.
Yeah. But it'd be
So you
mine.
have to get rid of that
It'd be
motor.
mine, and I would be in control of it though, just for me.
Need a piece of property with a spring on it,
Yeah.
clean water. You know, there's a couple
Yep.
things you can look for, and you can get a real good survival. But I don't know. Just to go back to reiterate that when I say the humanity is a disease, I'm not saying people are diseased. I'm saying that the process that we have chosen to adhere to is basically diseased. It's not all that's going to happen, no matter how you look at it, because they've already got us in the history books. They're taking history out because history's not
Yeah.
to point out the bad, is to educate people so that we don't do the mistake again. So they're taking the history away.
Right.
And trying to do all this touchy-feely stuff and get control of us. And then what happens is, I don't care what you call the system. You can call it communist, socialist, democratic. You can call it whatever you want. But what they're going to end up doing is there's going to be an elite group of people at the top that have all the money and all the power.
Right. We're going to go right back to the 1100s.
Yeah, and you have the king.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
only for us, the king will be the people that can afford to jump in there and do it with them.
Yeah.
So
You'll have the nobility, and we'll all be serfs. You know, you'll have people who are politically connected for whatever reason, and they will have some control and a little bit of some benefit for them, and the rest of us will eat crickets
paupers,
and we'll like it. We won't like it,
yeah.
but
It'll be better than the alternative, which is nothing. You know, you
Yeah.
do nothing.
I don't know.
And
I would rather, honestly, just my feeling, and maybe I would change if I actually got into the situation, but I spent some time thinking about this kind of stuff. And it's like, have you gone in and looked at the United Nations sustainable goals that they have on their website? They used to have it all under this section called Agenda 2030. They've rebranded it because that begot such a negative. So they've kind of rebranded everything. All the same information is there. They've watered it down, made it seem a little nicer, but it's all the same stuff. And so the goal is to eventually have the majority of the world's population living in these clusters, concentrated housing, where you have public transportation to go to and from work. And you'll go to work and you'll come home, and that'll be your life every day. Reminds me a lot of China. That's how they do, you know. But it's like I would rather be forced to just take the clothes on my back and a knife and go out into the wilderness and survive, and maybe die because I broke my leg and it got infected, or I got eaten by a bear, or some other thing happened to me, than have to live that kind of a life. And there are too many people willing to give up freedom and autonomy and independence for the security of a meaningless life.
the guise of security, you're no
No,
secure.
No, right.
These same people that are building this for you are the ones that can decide they want to nuke it the next day because they want to reduce it, and you're gone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the whole goal of reducing the world population. How many people can this earth support?
I would think as many people as hit it.
We have no idea. We haven't even begun to maximize what the earth can support. I
I
mean,
remember they did a little study when I was younger. They were talking about the population of the United States and how it was, even this is like when I was in my 20s. And a guy showed them that if they took, I can't remember what it was, but if they gave everybody in the country a half an acre,
yeah,
it would still only fill up Texas.
right.
Everybody in the country.
And you can support yourself pretty well on a half an acre.
But then what the guy said is,
Yeah.
look, he said, you're looking at these big cities that are like anthills.
Yeah,
And he said, you're not thinking about the ants that are out crawling around in the middle of nowhere looking for stuff to do. He said, we've got the central part of the United States here. We have states with hardly any people in them.
yeah,
So it's not
Right.
a population problem. It's a
No.
cluster problem.
yeah. Go to Wyoming. It's a whole lot of nobody.
Yeah.
A lot more
Miles and miles and
pronghorn
miles
sheep.
of nothing.
Yeah,
Why? Because I don't want to live there. Okay, well then live in your anthill and shut up.
right. But don't make me come live in your anthill.
No. You're
No.
trying to drag me back, we're gonna have a problem.
No.
But the process that they're doing with the cluster, I don't have a problem with that in a sense. I mean, at times I would like to think that I could come out of my house, pick up not have to own a car,
Mm-hmm.
get to my job, come home, and then when I want to have a life, we get in the car we own and we drive out into Montana
Right.
and we go have our own time.
Okay.
It would be convenient for me to be able to walk out my
Sure.
door and step on a moving sidewalk or whatever and go to work.
Yeah.
I like that process. I like the idea if it's voluntary completely.
Right.
Okay, but they don't
Yeah.
want it voluntary.
No.
So they want to make it become normal. Whoever, well, there's another one is they. They is a fluid word.
It is. Yeah.
It depends on who you're dealing with or what you're talking about as to who actually is they. At times we are they.
Okay.
You know, if to a child you're trying
Right.
to grow to raise up,
Yeah.
they pose all these rules on.
Yeah. That's us.
We have to be they sometimes.
Yeah.
But it depends on what you do with that they. You know, in a lot of this stuff, I made another statement, and I'm going to make it again. I'm a Christian, okay? I know a lot of people out there that aren't Christians. I don't care if they're not Christians because they're freaking good people.
Yeah.
They got good
Right.
morals. I don't know where they got them. I don't care where they got them. All I know is that they're good, fair, caring, reasonable human beings. So it's not about Christianity, but if this country lived the way we profess Christianity to be, the vast majority of the problems we have would go away.
Oh, yeah.
The vast majority.
They would.
One of the biggest ones that I see people doing all today is judgment. I mean, we judge. And I'm going to say we because I've done it too.
Yeah.
But we judge like that. We
Yeah.
like to do it.
Sure.
All right? I guess because it makes us feel better. I personally believe it's because we don't want to, we want to be able to pigeonhole you into a problem so that we can steer clear of that problem because we're afraid we're going to have that problem ourselves one day.
It could be.
I think
Yeah.
that a lot of people do what they do because they're afraid. They don't want to face it.
Right.
Homosexuality being a big one. You know, they turn their back on homosexuals because they're afraid, oh my God, this could happen to me. This could happen to my family.
Right.
So they ostracize them to try to stay away from it.
It's
Not like it's contagious.
It's statistically, I mean, if you include cousins and whatnot, there's somebody in your family.
Oh, more than likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up with a gay man before we even knew my best friend was gay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, his father made his life a living hell. We didn't care.
Yeah.
Couldn't give a crap. I don't care who he goes out
Right.
with. When we're out having fun, who cares?
Yeah.
He didn't hit on me.
Right.
So
well,
why
he knew
I
you weren't
care?
gay.
Yeah. So
Right.
what does
yeah.
it matter?
Yeah.
So, but no, we got to make it about religion. So, and I'm gonna, you know what? I'm going to bring something up I didn't think I was going to bring up, but I'm going to dadgum it. We segued
Okay.
into this because this is going to go to our friend. You know who I'm talking about with the younger girlfriend.
Yes.
All right. I have a problem with the way people are because, long story short, older man leaves his wife, ends up with a younger girl.
Yeah.
They're all their friends disown them. Okay, most of their
Most
friends disown them.
Yeah.
Well, I say friends.
Right. Right.
Okay. They disown them because they did something they didn't like. Now, what they have done is they have judged them, and they are punishing them for that judgment by withholding themselves from their lives.
Yeah.
So you take a problem. This man ended up with a younger woman while ending a marriage. He's got to answer to God to that. Okay.
Okay.
Is it his fault that he's where he's at? Can he help how he feels about someone else or how he doesn't feel about someone else? No, not really, right?
I don't.
You know? Do you know
Well,
why you
here's the
love your
thing.
wife?
Oh man, we can't get into that.
But
Yes,
it's a feeling. It's something you can control it.
It is a feeling. It is a feeling. I do think that we can fall in love with just about anybody. That's because there's that whole thing. But we all have circumstances. Like in you're talking to me knowing that I've been divorced twice. My first divorce caused, in retrospect, in large part, to PTSD. Second divorce, in large part because I was being abused.
Which
Now,
is what divorce is for, even biblically. You're unequally yoked.
right.
So divorce is not an issue.
Right. But you're gonna meet people. You're gonna like that person or not like them. You have some, but. So I get what you're saying. I agree. Let's agree in principle that yes. Now, I want to say this too, because I can understand how it feels to have some of your friends disown you. Because when my first wife and I divorced, I mean, all of a sudden, like I went to church. There was one couple who would speak to me. Nobody else would even want even to look at me.
Yeah. In a church.
In a church, yeah. And a lot of my other friends that I thought were friends. So I get that. And so this mutual friend of ours, I was a little shocked to find out that he thought that I was one of those that had kind of turned my back. And he had a reason for thinking that. And had I been in his shoes, I might have thought the same thing. But I think we've talked about that. I don't want to bring all that up here. But yeah, you fall in love with somebody, and once you fall in love with them, then that's something. You can't. How do you stop that? How do you voluntarily fall out of love with somebody? You can't decide to stop loving somebody.
Did you decide you were going to fall in love with them?
No.
When you met your wife, did something click that you don't even understand?
Yes, that's something we ought to talk about sometime. It's how she and I ended up meeting. Yes, something absolutely clicked that I could not understand, can't explain.
Same thing with my wife.
Yeah.
I kept telling my buddy Philip, I said, if I respond to her, we'll end up married. I said, I'm telling you, I already know this.
Yeah.
And I did respond to her because I knew I was going to get married, but she lost her husband, and I made it wait a year. I took a year. I didn't tell her.
Yeah.
But I thought it was too fast. She was ready to get involved, and I thought it was too fast for her kids.
Right.
So I waited, but I already knew. I said, when I respond and we start seeing each other, we'll end up married.
Yeah.
So I knew this.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for it. I didn't even want it. I was a lifetime single person, but I already knew there was a connection there.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, if he had the same connection with this younger person,
right.
All right, who's to say that's right or wrong? If there's a right or wrong in that, that's for God to go over with him.
Right.
These people have chosen to ostracize them because they don't agree with what he did. That's not biblical.
No, it's not.
The difference is they're making a choice.
Right.
They are choosing to distance themselves from people, and they're going to say, I'll tell you what they're going to say, and I dare them to say it in front of me. I don't want it to be a stumbling block for me. I've heard people say this, and I told one guy, I said, well, if you seeing a man with a younger woman is a stumbling block for you, you have a major problem that you need to look into because it has nothing to do with them. The only thing that becomes a stumbling block is if you think being around them is going to make you want to do the same thing.
Well, right. I mean, is
it going to change you?
And that's how I would interpret them meaning it being a stumbling block. That doesn't make. I don't understand.
But
yeah,
they're distancing themselves because they're seeing a temptation they're interested in of doing themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
Which means they have a problem, not the man and the younger woman.
Right.
But they're going to punish the man and the younger woman because they have a problem.
Right.
Tell me where God says that's okay, because throughout the entire Bible, it says exactly opposite of that.
Right. You should not. We have to remember that the way in which we judge other people is the way in which God's going to in turn judge us.
Now,
so I'm sorry, go ahead. But there's in my extended family, there's a group. There's a family. They're not my immediate relatives, but they're a family that that I was kind of close to, and that family has become divided over a financial issue, and I have deliberately chosen to stay out of it. I love all the people involved. One of them I'm really, really close with. And so I do spend more time talking to that person. And I know that I only get his perspective when he tells me what's going on. I don't talk to them so much, but it's just because I wasn't as close with them.
Right.
But within the overall extended family, people feel like they have to take one side or the other.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm not, because I'm talking to this person, I'm not judging them. I don't know what caused it. I don't know the root cause. I don't know what the solution is. It's really not my business. Are they hurting each other? Yes, emotionally they are. And should that family be united? Yes, they should. I don't believe it's within my power to solve their problems. I'm not going to judge them. I'm not going to get involved on one side or the other. And I end up with people, other parts of the extended family, kind of putting pressure on me to take a side. I'm not going to do it. And we shouldn't either.
No.
You know, so this guy left his wife for somebody younger. We shouldn't be picking sides between he and his former wife.
Huh. Why is there sides at all?
Exactly.
First off, it's that man and that woman's problem. Theirs alone.
Right.
Okay, they have to work through that.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to even offer. Well, I'm not hesitant to offer advice. The problem is people get mad at me because my advice is almost always straight out of the Bible and non-judgmental. I don't make a call. Okay,
Right.
The man had a right to leave his wife. The man had a right to go off with whoever he wanted to go to. He has a right to make any decision he wants to make in the entire world. He has a right to pull a gun out and shoot you. Okay?
Yeah.
He can do whatever he wants. Now, that word right means he's in control of his own life. He can do what he wants to do. He's responsible for what he does, which is what tempers us with our rights.
Right, yeah.
All right? And
Sure.
then we make laws saying, okay, yes, you own a gun. You have a right to pull it out and do whatever you want with it. But because of what we have deemed as right and wrong, which is, in this particular case, is solid and reasonable, there are laws that say you can't do this thing. You can't shoot a man because that man has a right to live.
Right. The most basic of all rights.
So you're taking the fact that every person has a right to do anything they want in the world and then saying, okay, these are the things that you, even though you have a right, you shouldn't want to do, and we're going to legislate, and they're reasonable. I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
So in this situation, well, I've been through it with personal, because in this particular situation, I had a problem with what he had done. He's a great friend of mine.
Sure.
And I said, look, here's the deal, bud. I said, I got to wrap my head around what's going on here. I said, so I'm going to have to step back from this. I said, I have an issue with a lot of the things that I think you did that are not biblical. I said, and I don't want it to be a problem. I said, so give me some space. I'll figure this out. I processed what I had to process, and now we're back to the status quo. Everything's fine. Because I think if I hadn't stepped back, what I was trying to figure out would have festered and become a problem.
Okay.
And I would have ended up possibly falling into the group that I despise, which are the ones that turned their back on him for no reason.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to say smart enough to realize I was not of mental stability enough to stay where I was. I had to pull back and really, let this process do its thing.
Right.
And everything's good. I'm friends with everybody because I'm friends with everybody anyway.
Right.
I know it can be done that way because, with my dad and my mom broke up, they didn't like each other much because, they ruined each other's lives for a while. My dad and mom had to split the house. My dad got remarried, bought a new house. He said, I don't need that house anymore. He gave my mother half the house, his half of the house back.
Okay.
He said, it's your house now. Didn't have to.
Right.
He just did it. He said, I have a life. I'm stable. You take your house.
Yeah.
When Mother got married again later on, decided to move out, Mother sold her half of the house to Dad and gave him back his house.
Wow.
His half. So she sold him half the house. She didn't have to. She could have sold it for full value on the market.
Yeah.
But she appreciated the fact that he gave her the half back.
Yeah.
When I built Mother her house here, my dad came out here and helped me put trusses on the roof.
Wow.
Walks up, shakes my stepdad's hand, say, "How you doing?" Hugs Mom. Me and Dad are building a house for my mom. My friends are going, "What's going on?" I said, "What? Isn't that your dad?" "Yeah." "And your dad and stepmom there?" "Yeah." "Your mom and stepdad?" "Yeah." "But your dad's helping you?" "Yeah."
Yeah.
"My family would never do that." I said, "Well, there's your problem."
Yeah.
My family doesn't have their heads severely keister mounted.
And
they're going, "Hey, they're going, hey, my son needs help. My ex-wife, the mother of my children, need help. I can do it." They're friendly to they were friendly to the day my mother died.
You know, and do you know why your dad made that decision to give her that half of the house?
Can I tell you what his motivation was? No.
Or his decision process? You haven't talked to.
No, it wasn't something I even needed to know. But
I'm just curious.
If he's anything like me,
or
if I'm anything like him, my belief is that he thought it was a fair and right thing to do.
Yeah.
That my mother needed to move on with her life and had the ability, and having him own half of her house when he didn't need it was just going to inhibit her moving forward.
Yeah.
He wanted her to have her freedom.
Yeah.
Because why? Oh, gee, let me see. Could it be because he respected her as a human being instead of punished her for being a bad wife?
Yeah. So many people, when they split up, have to spend the rest of their lives trying to make the other person miserable.
Yeah.
And, I don't quite understand that. As part of human nature, I suppose, But when my first wife and I split up, it was not great, and I won't go into all the details of it. I just want to say we had some animosity there for quite a while. And then a few things happened. She ended up married to the man she's with now, and he and I happened to get along. What he's like to be married to, I don't know. But as far as the way that he treats me and his and my actions there, seems like a pretty great guy. And so I think some things were tempered there. And then so they had me over, my wife and I, over to their house a time or two, because it was a birthday for one of the kids or something. And I think that a lot of that probably came from him. Then my ex-wife had an aunt who passed away, and she and they had been fairly close, and so my wife and I, my current wife, we decided that we would send her a sympathy card. But it's just these little things that have built up where all of a sudden we find ourselves 2 or 3 weeks ago at a baby shower for one of our kids who's about to have their first child. And we're at this baby shower, and we're sitting at a table eating together and just having the most pleasant conversation for an hour or two. And it was like something just kind of clicked going, this is the way that people who, for whatever reason, end up splitting up, this is how it should end up, with getting along. And so I was just kind of curious how your parents ended up at that point. And obviously it was because your dad gave the house, then your mom gives it back and sells them the other half. So this mutual respect. Did they have that from the beginning, from the time they split up? Because not every, that seems to be pretty rare.
It was a little rough at the beginning, of course, because my dad left and ended up with another woman relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. And my mother was not exactly mentally stable, so she had to wrestle with mostly bipolar and stuff like that. But and she did a good job at wrestling what she had to deal with. But I think probably if you were to go to the base of it, and that's not what we do. People tend to react to what they don't like is happening instead of looking at who the person is and deciding what they want for that person. And I think my father probably agreed with what I say. He's never said anything like this, but I've said all my life, if you love someone, you want them to be happy, even if it's not with you.
Yeah.
All right? So if my wife today decided she couldn't live with me anymore, my wish for her would be to find the man that could make her happy for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
That even if I can find one for her, I'll help her.
Sure.
Am I going to like it? No. I'm not going to like it one dadgum bit.
Right.
But I love the woman, so I want her happy.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what we have to study on. But we think, I want her. I don't want anybody else to have her.
Yeah.
Now we're not thinking about, do we want her happy?
No, then your focus is not on her. Your focus is back on you.
You want to be happy by having her.
Yeah.
All right? So either you have to figure out how to be happy with that person, or you got to let them go and hope they find the one they want that does what they need.
You know, that's so... I just had this little thing clicked in my head, but the way you're describing that, if you truly love somebody, your focus is on what makes that person happy no matter what.
Instead of what makes you happy.
And so often, people are focused on, well, what makes me happy? And I want them because they make me happy. And it's just a little bit of a flip. If you truly care for that person, your focus is not on you; it's on them always.
And as Christians, our focus is always supposed to be on the other person, because if we do the right thing with the rest of the world, the good will come to us. That's where God comes in. That's where God provides the pathways. If you want, it goes with that. If you want to see a miracle, be your miracle.
Right.
You're going to have the life that you put out. Okay.
Yeah.
If I treat people in a judgmental fashion, where do I get off getting upset if somebody judges me?
Right.
All right. And I've been through some situations where I have been tested.
Yeah.
One of them being, I think you already know about the large amount of money that was taken from me.
Mm-hmm.
It's legally, there was no issue. My stepfather was trying to fix it when he passed. But due to a glitch, life insurance that was supposed to come to my family, me, from my stepfather, went to his estranged family. They estranged themselves from him because they didn't like my mom, and because their crazy grandmother convinced them that my stepfather was abusing their mother when she was dying of cancer. Which, if you ever met James, you'd have known that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
well, I don't
over
know
these
that,
stories,
but I know you allowed it to happen. So
yeah. Because of these stories, they disowned their father.
Okay.
I built them a house from the ground up with my bare hands. My stepdad and mother wanted to make it to where I didn't have a mortgage because of that. Right. So we kept reducing his life insurance to what we could afford just to cover the mortgage. So we had a specific amount of money that was supposed to come in. Yeah. He passed away. Beneficiaries, and the guy on the phone said, "No, everything's going to your wife. Everything's fine." And he's going, "I need to see a copy. We don't have a copy of it." He went through all of that. Went to them. Now they gave me some of it out of the goodness of their heart. Yeah. But she sat there and told me and Philip she knew that money wasn't hers. It's supposed to go to me. But she kept it anyway. Now she spread it out amongst her family, and she was actually told me, she said, "Look, I didn't get as much money as I gave you because I gave the grandkids money and all that." And I'm going, okay. Now, I told her, I said, "Look, I forgive you for this." And she said, "Well, I'm glad you understand." I said,
Yeah, hold on.
I said, no.
Difference.
I said, "Let me tell you something. I don't understand." I said, "It is not possible for me to understand what you're doing." I said, "Because a good person will never understand what a bad person's doing. And to me, you're a bad person. If this was reversed, anybody in my family, if we thought we were getting 80 grand and found out that the person that was leaving it to us wanted it to go to you, I would have never touched it. It would have gone straight to you. Even if I couldn't make my bills, it would have gone, every dime would have gone straight to you. Right. So I will never understand what you did. But I forgave you before you did it. Because that's what God wanted us to do. And I tell people I forgive them for stuff they haven't done yet. Right. Because if you do something to me, I'm going to forgive you. Am I going to let you do it again? Maybe not. Right. If it's bad enough, am I going to hurt you? I mean, am I going to offend you? Yeah. If I have to. Do I want to? No. Right. But I'm going to forgive you. And I forgive you because I truly believe that the things we don't forgive each other for on this planet are the things that are going to get a pass when God sees them. Because that's me taking God's job. Right. Judgment, forgiveness, all that stuff. Yeah. He has that to do. Right. We only have to forgive one another for what we've done and move on. Right. And it's not asking much. Right. Right. And I'll have this crazy fantasy that when I get to heaven, and this is going to sound backwards from what most people would say, But I like to know that, or like to believe that I'm going to stand there before God, and the people that I have wronged, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to have to tell them why I did what I did.
Yeah, it could be.
Right? I like the thought that I'm going to have to account to you for anything I did wrong to you. Most people are interested in the fact that they're going to want you to stand there and account to them for what they did, or for what you did to them. I want to be able to stand there and tell you why I wronged you.
Yeah.
Because I love God enough to know that's what He wants of me. That's what I want to do. It's scary.
It is scary, but that's I think, my opinion is that that's a far more accurate, in my belief, of far more accurate depiction of what's gonna happen. No, because I'm the one being judged. I'm not the one. It's a judgment. It's not. It's not excuse time.
Yeah.
It's judgment time. There will be no excuses. You know, wait a minute. You were
No excuses.
You were taught these things, right? Okay, so tell me again. Why was it that you did this right here? You were taught not to do that. Why did you do it? And it's not going to be, well, because he stomped on my foot first. No, there's none of that. Yeah.
But I believe that if I punish you on this planet for what you've done to me, that I think you've wronged me, when I stand up there and it's your turn, He's going to say, you know what? You get a pass. Because He judged you on the planet.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people going, wait a minute, these guys ain't paying for nothing. Well, you made them pay in life. So you did my job.
But those people forget that Jesus paid for all of that. The debt's paid. We don't have.
You're talking about now. When you're talking about paid, you're talking about as far as the admission to heaven. I think there's other ways that those have to be paid. I think we have, like you said, we're going to be judged.
We are, but the thing for which we repent and truly try to correct those parts of our life, we're not going to be held accountable.
If you're truly trying to, yeah.
Yeah, truly trying to. But even when we're truly trying, there are people going to expect. And the thing is, I don't know if that person hasn't truly tried to make something better. I shouldn't hold it against them no matter what.
Yeah. As long as he's not physically hurting you anymore.
Yeah. As far as any wrong to me, I'm supposed to forgive them because, okay, Christ's payment is infinite. It can cover all debts ever created, and so therefore, if anything is owed to me, it's not going to come from them. It's going to come from Christ, and that's kind of how I see it. And maybe I'm not describing it well, but
why should I get upset about $80,000? That's just going to make my life hard when somebody else took nails through their hands, or their wrists.
Suffered so much in the garden that they bled from every pore.
Yeah. My problem seems rather trivial because, well, I'm not going to get nailed to a cross and die slow.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to wear my crown of thorns because Jesus did it for me. I'm not going to have my side pierced.
Be beaten to the point of almost death
while you're dragging your own cross to stand in a hole.
Yeah.
All this crap that we deal with on this planet is trivial if you think about that.
Yeah. And somebody completely innocent. He did nothing wrong. He had no reason to have done any of that to him, and he willingly submitted to it. So.
And there's even parts of it I bet you most people don't know this. Do you know why the guard stabbed him in the side?
Well, they so the Jews wanted everybody dead before the Sabbath. And he looked like he was dead, and so they wanted to know, is he dead or not, or make sure he's dead. So they stabbed him in the side, and then of course here comes the separated blood cells and the plasma and water and blood comes out. So
yeah, and actually it expedited his death if you look at it from a human sense.
Sure, he would have died much more. It was kind of humane in a way.
In a way, that may not have been why he did it, but it didn't expedite anything for him because he died when he told God
it was finished.
It's time. It's done. And that was the end. But most people don't know much about that story at all. And they don't want to know about that story because they don't want to think about the fact that, why? You don't want to think about things that make you look weak. You don't want to think about being upset because somebody yanked some money out of your wallet when the man you profess to believe died.
Yeah.
The ultimate sacrifice. You know, and he died so that the guy that just took that money from you could still go to heaven.
Yeah.
And if he wants that man to go to heaven bad enough to die for him, even knowing what he's going to do to me, what's it going to hurt me to forgive him?
Right.
Now, I'm not going to buddy up with these people that took money from him, but if I stop on the side, if I see him on the side of the road with a flat tire, you think I'm going to help him? Of course I'm going to help him. Am I going to talk to him much? No.
Yeah.
Am I going to wish him a wonderful life? No. Chances are pretty good I'm going to walk up, I'm going to put the tire on their car, I'm going to get back in my car, I'm going to drive away. I don't know if I'll say anything at all.
Right.
But I'm not going to turn my back on them.
Right.
I don't have to be friends with them.
No, you don't have to be
I
friends.
just have to forgive them because that's what he wanted me to do, and I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done stuff like that before.
I have no doubt. You know, those things it can be hard to do. You know, it's not always. It's a mindset. You know, for some people it's easier than for others, but some people, I guess, again, because the focus is on self rather than on somebody else. You don't want to think that this person that did something to me can still go to heaven. Well, they can. There's very little that you or I could ever do that would disqualify us from forgiveness. In fact, my belief is that those things for which there is no forgiveness, so hard to commit, it's virtually impossible for you and I to actually commit something like blasphemy against the Holy Ghost. I mean, that's those things. That's the whole. But yeah. So we forgive people because we're told to, and because it is the right thing to do. And when you hold a grudge,
because I want to forgive them.
And when you hold a grudge, it doesn't. How does you holding or me holding a grudge? How does that hurt the other person?
It only hurts you.
Man, it just tears. I cannot stand to be really angry at somebody. There was a person I was angry at for probably a couple of years, or I don't know, maybe a little longer than that. It's when I was a teenager, and really the whole thing was quite trivial. And then one day it just occurred to me, man, golly, why am I letting this bother me? It's not doing anything to him. He doesn't care. He's going about his life. And I just let it go. And it was just like, whoa, that was kind of cool. Now I feel better.
Well, this story is kind of strange, but it kind of fits the idea. My first girlfriend, when she left me, she ended up with one of my good friends at the time. Mm-hmm. And he was living at their house with her brother. So it was convenient. I was living in the house across the street, so every day I had to see them go off together.
Okay.
Well, when it first happened there, I hate to admit this, but I went on a little drinking bender there for a while. I'd sit in the backyard and drink and get drunk. And well, one day I hear them pull out, and I hear the car go up the hill, and I hear the car go dead halfway up the hill. So I stagger up the hill, with my drink in my hand.
Yeah.
I walk up to the back of the car, open up the gas filler neck, open the gas cap, and it goes whoosh. I close it back down and I walk away.
Yeah.
Never said a word to anybody.
Right.
My buddy Richard, later on, he told me, he said, you know how scared I was that day? He said, I thought you'd come up here to hurt me. And he said, but you came up and you touched the car. And he said, and as soon as you touched the car, I knew it was fixed. He said, I don't know how you knew what happened. He said, but you just walked up, touched the car, and walked away. I told her, I said, get in the car, let's go. She said, well, the car's running. He said, it'll run. Got in, fired it up, and they drove away.
Wow.
And because I had no anger, I just didn't want them sitting in the middle of the road dead.
Sure.
But he said it kind of freaked him out. But I was angry at both of them when that happened.
But
I was still dealing with the anger.
Yeah.
But it didn't fit the situation that I was currently in, which is how do I get their car out of the middle of the road so they don't get hurt or they can go off and do what they're going to do.
Right.
And that's what I did.
You did the right thing anyway.
Did the right thing, even drunk.
Yeah.
But the feelings there, it wasn't something I wanted to do. Inside, my body was telling me to laugh at them. Maybe the car will get totaled. But that wasn't the right thing. That's not what. Yeah. That's not what. And this is probably when everybody's wearing those little "What would Jesus do" bracelets that everybody wore, but nobody actually went by.
Right.
And my thought was Jesus would want these people safe and moving again. So that's what I did.
It reminded me of a little anecdote told by, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it was Jeff Foxworthy or somebody saying that got behind a car in traffic and they had a bumper sticker that says, "Honk if you love Jesus." So he beeps the horn a couple of times. The person flips him a bird and drove away. It's like, wait a minute.
I know. What is? How does this stuff work, man? How does this work?
Wait, yeah, what would Jesus do? Well, probably not that.
No, I'm pretty sure. He might have waved you around or something, but no, he thought the guy was beeping at him because he's doing something bad.
Yeah. It probably
Forgot about his own bumper sticker.
Forgot about the bumper sticker. Yeah.
People are
Wow.
funny. I see another book you've got up there that I've read that I think a lot about.
Blink?
Yeah. Maybe you haven't read it yet.
I'm trying to remember. I've read a couple of his books. Malcolm, that's probably your
Gladwell?
book. Is that your book?
Yeah. No, I don't know if it is or not.
Are you
Blink,
missing it?
Blink and tipping point.
Are you missing? Are you missing
I don't
it?
know if I am or not. If I get, I don't have any. I think I did give it to you, but I don't want it back. I don't need it. Keep it. Read it.
'Cause
I
I'm only
read
glad
everything.
about
I read everything
forgetting.
electronically now. So just
Yeah. I like a lot of his stuff. He and I do disagree on one thing. He gave a TED talk about David and Goliath, and he was wrong.
Malcolm Gladwell did.
Yeah, but that's something maybe I'll go through sometime. Play that, and then because I can go through and point out in the Bible because he uses some parts of the story to explain his viewpoint, but in fact he has a lack of understanding of the culture at the time, the things that were written, and he overlooks a lot of parts of the story. He just gets some of it wrong.
Yeah.
But he understands and as far as books like that and Tipping Point, yeah.
They're not really about opinion. They're about sharing.
Yeah. Did he write? Who wrote the fourth Turning? Was that him? Or was that somebody else?
I don't know.
Have you heard of that or read it? I need to read that again. The book is about it's a worldview of the cycle of politics and humanity and how you have these different turnings in this cycle, and that the fourth turning is a crisis which then kind of leads to the rebirth of the next point. And so there have been a few of these fourth turnings where there was this crisis, and one of those, you had the American Revolution, you had the Civil War as we call it, which was not a real Civil War, but
Yeah.
and then we had the World Wars and Vietnam and then where we're at now, and a lot of people think we're at this point of this fourth turning where there's going to be some kind of a crisis that maybe worldwide. It might be local here to our country. I think it'll be a worldwide thing, but we'll see.
Well, that also depends on how you identify crisis. I mean, as far as most people are concerned, that COVID was a crisis. But it's not. But as far as I'm concerned, COVID was a very small.
Yeah. Well, this would be a conflict between of humanity, between nations or between people with identified sides and whatnot. But anyway, I'll see if I can find the copy of that. But you said you read everything electronically.
I read it on my phone. It's the only thing I carry around with me that I can keep up with.
I read some stuff electronically. I still, for most things, I prefer to have an actual book.
I do too. I like the smell and the feel of the book in your hands, but I
And
have to carry it around, remember where it's at, and all that kind of stuff. And this,
yeah, that makes sense.
I was resistive in the beginning, but it opened me up to having everything at my fingertips.
Yeah.
And when I want to read, I want to read. I don't want to have to go try to find
It's
a book or go to lunch and realize I left my book. And the one thing I always have is that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this. This is something I was thinking about the other day because it seems like so many of our rights. This is a total subject change. So many of our rights are being trampled on. As far as the Bill of Rights go, the many rights we have in the Bill of Rights, and if you had to give one of those up, which one would it be? Do you know what they all are? It's hard to remember off the top of your head.
No, I don't remember every single one of them, but first and foremost, I'm not going to give any of them up. If somebody tells me I have to, we're in for a fight.
Well, there you go. Let's see.
But we've probably already given some of them up anyway.
Oh, to a point. So the First Amendment covers freedom of speech and religion, freedom of the press, the right to peaceably assemble, petition the government. Then the Second Amendment, we all know. Third Amendment is the courting of soldiers. You're not required to quarter soldiers in your home. The Fourth Amendment is a right against unreasonable searches and seizures. Your Fifth Amendment, of course, your right to not incriminate yourself, but it also guarantees your right to have a presentments at grand jury and double jeopardy is covered there. And your Sixth Amendment is speedy trial. Seventh, that's just one of those things where you can have a jury trial if you're have an issue at common law that exceeds $20.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then eighth is excessive bail and cruel and unusual punishment.
Yes.
That one I think might be gone. Yeah, that's kind of coming back, but a lot of bails are excessive. People can't afford them anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's because they want them in jail because they make money off of that. People don't realize that the jail system, the prison system in this country is a for-profit.
Yeah,
it's a business. It's a brick and mortar business.
It is a business. If you put your property up in lieu of a cash bond and you don't show up for court, they can literally take your property, and it's theirs.
Well, they can already take it for any number of reasons.
Yeah.
The eminent domain, all that kind of stuff. You know, it's just.
Yeah. Yeah. They can
but no, I'm not going to let any of them go. I'd fight for them. But you know, when you talk about rights, here's another thing that people don't do. People as a whole pick and choose to defend the rights that they take advantage of. I don't believe that's the way it should be. You should fight for rights whether you agree with them or not.
Oh, sure.
Now, I'm going to give you two examples. One is seatbelts. Okay.
Okay.
I believe that you should have a right to make your decision to a point. The reason, well, you know, seatbelts is the worst. Is the worst one. The one I think of the most. I was against them going after restaurant owners and making them say you can't smoke in a restaurant.
Okay.
If the man owns a business, he pays all the exorbitant rip-off extortion money that he already pays the government to be even open the doors.
Right.
He should be able to do whatever he wants. You know why? Because if they're smoking in the restaurant, I don't have to go into it.
Right. Nobody makes you go in there.
You don't have a right to go into my business, period. None.
Right.
I can tell you turn around at the door. It's my business, do whatever I want. If I want to be stupid, I can do that. I believe the most that legislation should have done would have been, say, you need to separate your HVACs, your air handling systems.
Okay.
Have your smoking area separate from your non-smoking area, but just separate the air quality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the most they could do if you wanted to have smoking in your restaurant.
Okay.
All right, but I don't think they had a right to tell a restaurant owner that he has to say no smoking in my restaurant.
Sure.
On the seatbelts things, I've changed a little bit on that because I have been in an accident before where if I'd have been wearing a seatbelt, I would not have lost control of my vehicle.
Yeah.
But that was in the old days when you had bench seats. I ended up from the driver's side onto the passenger side.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in cars anymore.
Right. Right.
But requiring it, I have a problem with requiring things like that. Is it stupid to not wear a seatbelt? You bet your butt it is.
Yeah.
But should I have to? I pay for the car. I pay for the tag. I pay for the gas. I pay for my insurance. I pay for my medical insurance. Now, but the reason that they get away with this stuff is because you're getting into it all falls back onto whether or not does a person have a right to hurt himself or kill himself. So now you've put religion, or religious beliefs, which come from morals, which are typically from religion, into everyday politics. So if I want to go out and ramp my truck off of a ramp that probably going to kill me when I hit the ground, do I have a right? Government says no. Where do we get off with the government telling us I don't have a right to do that? Because if you take your basic human rights away, nothing else after that matters.
Right. So yeah, no, you know, I think she I had an eye on that a lot. You know, I wore my seatbelt pretty faithfully
And I wear
until
mine.
they passed the seatbelt law in Georgia. I was a teenager, and I was like, oh, I have to wear it? I don't think so. And then I didn't wear it for a while, and then I got into law enforcement. And I was like, you know, wearing a seatbelt's a really good idea. You work a few wrecks with people without seatbelts on, and you'll
Yeah.
wear one real quick. And so, what about the idea that and I thought I had silenced this. Dang it! What about the idea that that we shouldn't have to bear the brunt of the medical cost of people who are seriously hurt because they weren't wearing a seatbelt?
All right. I'm going to take that over into what I've had in my life, which is helmets.
Right, I'll say similar to helmet laws.
All right. Let me give you the facts about helmetless
Okay.
accidents.
Mm-hmm.
First off, the vast majority of head injuries related to lack of helmet
Mm-hmm.
result in death.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right,
there's
they
no
do.
burden on the state, no burden on the people. Vast majority, and I've lost a lot of people in my life. I've been a motorcycle since I was 18, so
Yeah.
I've quite a few people
Yeah.
smash their gourds and be done.
Yeah.
Had some survive it. But if you're going to do something, okay, I don't like helmets. If I didn't have a helmet law, I wouldn't wear one. Do I think it's stupid? Yeah, I think it's stupid. I can be safer with a helmet,
Yeah.
but I like my freedom.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I like to enjoy what I'm doing. If I can't enjoy what I'm doing, why do it? Well, if I'm there's no helmet. If I have to wear a helmet, well, if I didn't have to wear a helmet, I should be required to maintain a minimum of insurance,
Okay.
including medical insurance.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if I don't have a helmet on and you pull out in front of me and I hit you, I don't think you should have to pay for any damage that could have been prevented. We don't know, but there's a good chance a lot of it could be prevented. So
Right.
it shouldn't be a burden on you because I made a choice to put myself at a higher risk situation.
Right.
I should have
Okay.
to cover that.
Okay.
I believe at 21, I should have been required to wear a helmet because I was stupid. I didn't know this stuff yet. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm still figuring out wheelies and all that.
Yeah.
I
It was going to
should
be
have.
cool. Yeah.
So up to a point, I think there should be a requirement. But once you reach whatever we determine the age of accountability to be, you should be able to do whatever you want, even if it puts you in danger, as long as it doesn't endanger other people. If my head hits the side of your car with no helmet on, I'm not going to do you any more damage than if I had the helmet on. You're not
Right.
unsafe because I'm not wearing a helmet. Only me.
Right. See, here's how I answer the idea that, or the people, the idea that people put out that we'll be off to bear the brunt of those who. So a couple things come to my mind. First of all, a lot of motorcycle riders end up being organ donors. Why should we deprive people of the organs they need to survive? I'm saying
That's
that
a
half
drastic
jokingly.
way to look at it, but yeah.
I said that half jokingly. I'm not really serious when I say
Don't
that.
close the grocery store.
But the, but the other thing is, well, why are we bearing the brunt, and why don't we then, like you're saying, require some kind of policy, insurance policy, or something special, or just allow the hospitals to to put a lien on the assets of the person who was riding, if they have any. Now that won't that won't defray all the costs because some people are going to have no assets, but it would defray them somewhat. I just don't, you get into this whole realm of hospitals overcharge anyway,
Because it's for profit.
because it's for profit. You have insurance companies. I recently got a bill from a doctor. I'm disputing this whole thing with the insurance company, but the doctor had a set fee. The insurance company did two things. First of all, they said, "Well, you're only allowed to charge this much, but we're not going to cover it anyway." And the amount they said the doctor was allowed to charge was half of what they were trying to charge. I think medical insurance, by and large, should be completely done away with. I think it would bring medical costs way, way down. And so then that alone would reduce the cost that's to be absorbed by everybody else. But yeah, I think there's a lot that we should be allowed to do. It doesn't mean that it's a smart idea to do it, but we should still be allowed to do it. You don't legislate things like personal safety.
Yeah.
You know, if something that I do might truly hurt another person, then yeah, I mean that's because that person has a right to their life and their own safety.
It shouldn't have to be a law for that. I mean, we should be decent enough human beings not to put others at risk.
Right. I'm not allowed to shoot my gun across a roadway because somebody might be, coming, and it's kind of weird that we have to actually legislate that, but some idiot would do it.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen houses get shot because somebody was shooting at a running deer, breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
Didn't check the property before they went out there to hunt to find out there was actually a house in there where they were shooting.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be responsible. They all want to do what they want to do when they want to do it. The other thing though about the rights that I didn't get to.
Oh.
We were talking about fighting for rights even if you don't use them.
Yeah.
I don't. Let's take guns.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If I was anti-gun,
yeah,
I would still fight for the right to own a gun,
mm-hmm.
even if I don't want to own one.
Right.
Because of the right.
Sure.
And the reason this is important is because each time we let a little bit of a right get eroded away, it gives them more power to do what they want to do. Now, what happens if we've given them the power to control this, and one guy decides, well, his kid died in a BMW, so he doesn't want no BMWs in this country, and he's going to make it illegal to have a BMW.
Right.
He's going to be able to do it because you didn't fight for the rights that you didn't support, but should have fought for because it's a right.
Yeah.
And you've given them the power.
And just because you're anti-gun right now and don't want to own a gun, that might change. Some circumstance might change where you go, oh, now it might not, but
that shouldn't be your motivating factor. Your motivating factor should be that the right is there.
You should
fight for that right to stay, even if you don't think you'll ever use it.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just trying to.
But you're trying to make it
strengthen the point.
Get people to understand that they never know when they're going to change their mind. So why let something go that they might want later?
Right. Just because you don't want to have a gun doesn't mean that I shouldn't be allowed to have a gun.
And what typically happens is most of the anti-gunners that I've known in my life that now have guns were in a situation where they needed a gun and went, oh crap.
Right. How many of our politicians that are fighting for gun control have guns or have their own armed security? Yeah, probably. So then it makes you wonder, well, wait a minute. How come they don't want us to have guns, but they want to have them themselves?
Yeah, see, you're
and
not
then you go
forest through the trees, guys. Forest through the trees.
And so then you get back to the whole idea of being able to control populations again.
Yeah, you should fight for rights even if you don't want to exercise them just because they need to be there.
Yeah. You said something a minute ago about whether or not you have a right to take your own life and this whole idea of morality and religion coming into that. But I guess I personally, I have a little bit of a different point of view on that than I think a lot of professed Christians do. Because I do not see in the Bible where it says that I cannot take my own life. And in fact, there are certain characters in the Bible who we know took their own lives. So, why would it be immoral for me? I'm not hurting anybody else.
Oh, but you are. And see, I already know this too about me. Now, just to give you something to go by, I believe, I've told my wife this and all that, I believe my suicide is coming. I don't think I'm going to be able to stop it.
Man, I hope not.
I hope not too, because I've never wanted to live more than I do right now. But the stresses and the strains are pushing me to where I feel like I'm not going to have a choice. So, do I care if I have a right to or not? I don't care. I don't need the Bible to tell me if I can or even if I can't. I believe God does not want me to do it. Whether he said it in the Bible or not, he does not want us to end our lives.
Right. Let me ask you this. Most people who commit suicide are not, at least in this day and time, most people who commit suicide are suffering from some type of mental disease of some type or another.
Possibly.
Not everybody. Even if it's just depression.
Possibly. but I don't think that can be the only reason.
No, that's that'd be the only reason.
I don't think everybody that takes their own lives was mentally deficient.
Well, no, certainly not. But we're so quick to judge somebody, and I say we, I mean society in general, or a lot of people I know, for taking their own lives, and they want to say, "Well, that person's going to hell now." Well, no, I don't. I don't necessarily think so. I think God, who is completely just and loving and understanding, goes, "Oh my gosh, this person."
Took all he could take.
Right.
See, my deal is, and I can't get people to understand this either. I am not depressed. I've been through depression. I know what depression's like.
Yeah.
What's driving me is not depression. What is driving me is an unbendable logic. I've already been to a psychologist on this, and he even said the same thing. My logic is sound. It doesn't mean it's right,
Right.
but you can't argue the logic.
Yeah.
And sometimes in life, particularly if you've spent majority of your life working for everybody else to the point that you've got nothing left, you just run out of gas. You just can't keep putting up with what you have to put up with.
Yeah.
All right. If I don't find a way to learn some coping skills,
Right.
because my problems are not going to be solved, they're not going to go away. People are not going to
Right.
quit abusing animals. People are not going to quit raping kids. People are not going to quit beating their wives. All of the things that
That
happens in the world that I don't let go of, that goes in that cup,
Yeah.
that cannot be fixed. All I have to do is find a way to cope with it. So if I don't find some coping skills, I don't see that I'm going to be able to keep from putting myself out.
Okay.
Because I live in torture every day because I have no way to bleed any of this off. And it has nothing to do, here's another thing I'm going to say to everybody that ever sees this. Two things. One, when you want to say it could be worse, don't ever say that to a man who's got a gun in his mouth.
Right. Yeah.
It will never be any worse than with the hammer back trying to pull the trigger.
Right.
And second of all, whatever's breaking me, I don't care if you can carry it. You might can carry it.
We're all different.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything that happens individually is an individual load that is being carried by an individual person. You might can carry 50 pounds of sackcrete. You put it on my back and my back breaks.
Yeah.
It's not about the load. It's about what you can carry.
Yeah.
And everybody carries different amounts. Everybody carries different things.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that you got to remember. One, you can't compare yourself to them. And two, it could be worse.
Yeah.
Your perception is it could be worse for you.
Yeah.
If I'm at the end of my rope, there is no worse.
Right.
And I have had the gun in my mouth, and I have refused to call someone because I knew that if I heard anybody say it could be worse, I was going to pull the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Right
get
then
that.
and there. And I said, you know what? I'm fighting this. I don't want to do this, so I can't go there because I know that will flip the switch for me. So I did not call anybody, and I got through it on my own. People don't understand what drives suicide. Suicide prevention. It's an oxymoron. You can't do it. You cannot prevent a
If
suicide.
somebody wants to,
You can only hold one off.
right?
72 hours, sure, you know.
If somebody really wants to kill themselves, they're going to do it.
Quit.
A lot of people don't really want to kill themselves. They just want the pain to stop,
Yes.
and that's the only mechanism that they have to make it stop.
Now, you might can find a way to help them learn how to handle that, but the only
Yeah.
person that's going to prevent my suicide is me, period.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Of course, okay, so my issues were different, and what works for one person doesn't always work for somebody else. But you know, with the PTSD that I had and sort of things, I had to figure out how to cope with stuff. I for a long time, my coping was drinking, and I drank pretty heavily for a while. So I've discovered some things that really work for me. They don't work for everybody else. But I just want to, I know you're a Christian. I know that you have faith in God. I know you believe in the Bible. How often would you say that you have meaningful communication with God through prayer?
I don't pray.
I want to suggest you try something, because this absolutely changed me. And whether it's my actual communication with God, or whether it's me being able to hear out loud me say the issues and talk about the issues and the things that I have
but so I do two things. If I don't do this every day, then I'm gonna have a bad day. I get up really early in the morning because I have to have a significant amount of time by myself. And then the other thing that I do every day is that I pray out loud. And it's the out loud part that changed. I used to pray; it was always in my head, and I never felt like it was quite what I wanted. But I pray out loud now, by myself, and it's changed. It's
Define
changed
prayer then. When I said I don't pray the way every church I've ever been to says I'm supposed to pray. If you're talking about talking to God, I talk to God all the time.
Okay.
I get out of my truck, and when I get home at night, sometimes I look up and I say thank you. Sometimes I look up and go, why?
Sure.
But I'll talk to him during the day. I've actually caught myself laying under a house digging a trench, going and the other day just going, hey, why am I struggling? Why is this? I said, I remember telling him, I know you've given me all the tools that I need. Why can't I find them? Am I truly broken? Or because I talk to him just like I'm talking to you. So
well, good. You do it out loud.
Then I do pray. If that's what you're calling prayer, yes, I talk to God.
So just try this. I don't know.
I went by the wrong definition, but go ahead.
Yeah, because to me prayer is and maybe we should define it first. But for me, prayer is
talking directly
a very personal communication that I have with my Father in heaven.
Then yes,
and I do it out loud, and I'll do stuff during the day. But for me, I might be in here, and a prayer might last 2 minutes. I don't know how long each one's going to last. I might be in here for an hour, and it's not always me talking. It's also me, while I'm talking, stopping and paying attention to how I feel, and if I feel like God's trying to tell me anything or give me some insight. And it's amazing sometimes how the answer to something, and it can be, you think, why would God tell you that? And it can be something as simple as me trying to figure out how am I going to tie this roof down here at my parents' house? How am I going to fix this issue with their roof? And I'll mention it in a prayer. I'll stop and I'll take time. I'll just be sitting there, just not saying anything, just thinking, just kind of almost in a meditative state. And all of a sudden, the answer comes to my head, and I'm like,
yeah,
that'll work. Thank you.
Mine tends to come when I'm asleep.
Yeah, I think those things happen too. Yeah. Okay.
I'll wake up with the answer.
Yeah.
I'll go to bed going, what? And then I'll wake up going, oh.
Right. And why am I concerned about trying to help you find the coping mechanism for you? Because I love Ron, and I want what's best for Ron.
I don't want to lose anybody either. And the conflict is that I'm facing something not that I don't want to do, but I think I'm going to have to. And I'll give you a medical thing that concerns me. I don't know for a fact in my head, and when I say fact, there's no fact, but I don't believe that people can't just snap. Something happens, and they go into a part of them that makes them do something that they didn't want to do. I don't see myself as being that kind of a person. I've always felt like I've been in control enough and aware enough of this situation, but I'm afraid I might be wrong. So there's no way to protect myself from this. So when my wife asks me, do you think you might kill yourself? What would I have to say? I have to say, it's possible.
Yeah.
Because I don't know for a fact that it's not.
Yeah.
But everything in my life, I've never wanted to be in this world more than I do with my wife and my children. I've got my children, the stepkids living home, the grandkids. I want to be here. I have plans with my grandkids. I've thought about teaching Grayson to drive. I have a future plan. But I'm afraid that the present could possibly have enough power to make me forget the future and I do something stupid. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I think suicide's stupid no matter what the hell you do it for. Unless you're dying anyway. I have no problem with someone who's terminal into their life.
Sure, yeah.
But for anything other, all the crap that's out there in the world, I think we have friends, some clergy, you have God you can talk to all the time, you have yourself, you have all of these things to help you get through it. So I think it's stupid. Is it going to stop me because I think it's stupid? I don't think so.
It'll stop other people who know it's stupid. I mean, it's just because it's not. Yeah. Yeah. The issue that I really have with suicide a couple things. Of course, because it affects people other than ourselves. It's the self rather than the looking out. But you can't undo it.
Yes.
You know, it is. It's like, okay, my problem's so bad. I just see no other way. I should kill myself. Well, why should I do it right now? Why should I not wait until tomorrow? And then when tomorrow comes, well, maybe I could wait another day.
Yeah.
I understand the pain that leads people up to the point where they feel like suicide is the only option they have left.
It is the only option we ever have to stop it. That's it. All right. If you don't want
what?
Everything, if you don't want to have to cope anymore
with life,
the only surefire way to end all of it is death. That's it. It's the only stop everything. It's the only option you have. You can't get drunk and get away from it. You can't do drugs and get away from it. You can't. Therapy only teaches you how to cope with it. If you don't want to cope anymore, the only option is death. That's the problem. It's the only freaking option.
Something just popped into my head. And this is going to seem like it's completely unrelated. But you're talking about coping and how you just don't want to cope anymore. I wonder how many people there are, and then we'll come back to this, but who have decided to step away from their life and just live in a homeless camp or whatever, and just because it's their way of not dealing with the stresses of life, and they can just exist, and somebody will bring them food, and they don't have to worry about stuff.
There's been a few. I know some of them. I've talked to some of them.
Yeah. But getting back to so how, I don't know. You and I are alike in that we like to try to help people and try to find answers to things. I don't know that there's, I don't know if I know what the answer is, but I would like to try to find out what kind of coping mechanism there might be. So, is it the thing that you struggle with? If this is too personal, we can talk about something else.
There isn't anything that's too personal.
The thing that you struggle with, you're talking about people, like you said, abusing animals and doing horrible things. Is it the fact that there are people who do that?
No.
Is it why are they doing it?
No.
Or what is it? What is it?
I feel the pain.
You feel the pain of the animal.
The fear. There's this one video that pops into my mind above all others, and it's a dog that was out in the middle of this river on a rock, and somebody had hacked his damn leg off with a freaking hatchet and threw him in the water. And what I saw when I looked at the dog's face was the fear. The fear
Sure.
and the pain and the abandonment and all of those things. His human was only there to help him, and instead it destroyed everything that he might have believed. Does a dog believe that? I don't know. But the problem is there's a fear. All animals, all creatures experience fear.
Sure.
And they experience pain. They experience it a little different than we do. If we lopped our leg off, they wouldn't be able to get along like they do with a hole in their side. But I feel like I emote, or they emote that pain, and I absorb it.
Okay.
And it doesn't go away. I mean, I don't want to think about it, because if I did,
Right.
I could name you off issue after issue after issue after issue that has happened. I have seen since I was a child that pain is
Sure.
still in there.
Would you say that you become obsessive over it? No, but you just can't get rid of it. Have you
No,
tried-
because it's stored away, and I try not to access it if I can help it.
Sure. No, this sounds a lot like a form of PTSD in a way. There's some similarities, because that's one of the things with PTSD is you have these things that have happened to you. Now, this didn't happen to you, but you're absorbing it as if it did.
Basically.
And
makes
there
sense.
are there are some people who that's the way that your brain is wired, that you have that ability to connect and emote or feel, receive emotion, and yes, it's the empathic part of that. You're receiving it. have you looked into or thought of maybe like EMDR therapy? Do you know what that is? It's a relatively new way that they have of dealing with PTSD, and it's a type of therapy that is really really short. The sessions can, I mean, it can be a 30-minute session, and it might take one, it might take five, it might take a few, but it's not like something that you have to have on an ongoing basis typically. But so it uses eye movements and something that's rhythmic. So either like a sound that's like a metronome kind of a sound, or it might be a flashing light, or it could be something moving back and forth. And there's something about the focusing on that rhythmic pattern while you're reliving the thing that's caused the pain, that allows your brain to rewire and recategorize, and it allows a person after that, when they get through it, to then think about it without having the emotion attached to it. Somehow it separates those two things. It might be, and I say that because it just might be something that...
Well, you're talking almost sounds like forced neuroplasticity, which is rewiring the brain to how to process whatever's got to process, which I do. I've done. I did that to get over my depression.
But you can't do that with this other, having a harder time with it. And there's no way to control that necessarily.
But it's hard to imagine that there could be therapy that could make me okay with the memory. You know,
right. No, I get that. It's hard to imagine that even exists.
Yeah, what I need is to forget. So it's hard to imagine that I could not forget and still be okay. I'm not saying it don't work.
No, right.
I'm just saying I've never really thought about that. But
yeah, when I first heard about it, I was going, how in the heck does that? Because it does not take the memory away. But then I've read and listened to or seen videos, people talking about it and how it works and how it had benefited them, and for a lot of people, I mean, this is, from what I understand, this has become the go-to thing with the military in dealing with PTSD. They've been teaching this to a lot of folks, and it's still relatively new, especially in the private world. But yeah, it might be worth a shot.
Maybe, if I got time.
Yeah.
Broken windows and cars that don't crank in the morning and stuff like that. It's you never know when it's going to be the one to push you over the edge.
I can understand.
Because I'm on it. I'm on the edge. So it's more of a fight for me not to go than it is for me to go right now. So
to go over the edge.
Yeah, it'd be easier for me to just die than it is for me to continue to live, which is a good thing because I'm still fighting.
Yeah. Right. Well, before you go over the edge, if you can make that decision to put it off, and you feel like you really are like right there, and you haven't tried it yet, man, let's find someone and let's try it.
Try suicide?
No.
No,
things you just don't try.
I think I've got time.
I think you do
because I don't want to do it, so that gives me at least gives me the illusion that I have time. So
yeah, but it's something that maybe it would work. Maybe it wouldn't, but it wouldn't. I mean, what if you tried it and it didn't work? So you lost a half hour, you lost an hour of your time or something, or that's.
I don't know. It's always worth trying because I know I firmly believe that God's given us all the answers. We just have to find them.
Yeah. And
I think we get to a point like that. I'm too tired to look, so it has to fall in my lap. And I don't have a problem with that because the majority of my life I've helped people without them even asking. So I mean, I've been falling in other people's laps, so I know it can happen.
Yeah.
But it feels weird to be on the other side.
Right. And
I don't want to ask for help.
I understand that too. As much as I like helping people, I don't like being helped that much. I want to be the one helping somebody else. I don't want to be the one that's.
I think for people like me and you that have spent our whole lives going out of our way to help other people, when we ask for help, it
feels like failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because now we're broken.
Right.
That's what it feels like. We're broken. We're supposed to be the ones putting a hand out, not the ones reaching for a hand to be saved. And it's not. It's a major major change. A
Good
major,
stuff.
yeah. I don't know. It'd like be nice. I don't know if anybody's going to watch any of this stuff. They'll probably think I'm
I don't
crazy.
know.
But
Probably-
if any, I wish people would comment or get involved, or I'd love to hear what other people think,
Yeah.
particularly that don't agree with me. The people that agree with me, that's fine. You can just say I agree.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with me, that's what I want to hear from.
Yeah. Well, this stuff takes a while. One of the things that I have learned is that we might do this for a year and only have twice as many people watching, but then in the next year it might be twice again, and
Well,
it may not be but as long as you and I are getting something out of
I'm gonna
this.
say it's okay either way because I'm enjoying it. So,
Yeah, me too. Enjoyed it a lot.
and if I'm boring, be that as it may.
Oh well, there's other options. They can click on something else on YouTube or
Joe
on
Rogan's tab is up there
Spotify.
somewhere.
Yeah, you can go watch him. He can talk about. Yeah, that's something else. I don't know if I'll put that out there for people to think about or not, but gosh, that's gonna mean me confessing publicly to something that really was a huge help to me in my recovery from PTSD.
Yeah.
That was psilocybin.
Who? What?
Psilocybin.
Don't know.
It's the active ingredient in mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
And
It's interesting because I just saw a show on TV not long ago. It was a Netflix show, not a documentary, but they had a problem with someone with PTSD, and that's what they gave them.
One time, so I mean it was I mean I was in a bad place before I met my wife. This was after my my second divorce, and I mean, so I had the PTSD, and I had all the stuff from being a victim, and I had all this, a lot of anxiety, and I was trying to stop drinking, and just all kinds of my head was just all kind of messed up. And somebody suggested this to me, and I was like, what, I've never been one to do drugs of any kind. Alcohol, but as far as other stuff, never done anything recreationally or anything. And I thought about it, and they described how it helped them, and so I made the decision, and I did some. I had one psilocybin trip, and it's, if you can imagine, I've tried to explain this to somebody once. If you can imagine every negative emotion that exists within you having a sudden catharsis of all of that, and it all being replaced with positive energy and light in a moment. That's the best way I can describe it. So you have the other things that happen with it in it's like the color. You have this super saturation of color everywhere. You're kind of able to, like, you're aware of everything that's all around all at once. You can hear every little sound of everything that's coming in. So that's a really interesting experience on that side. But the best part of the whole thing was that once the trip started, just a few minutes into it, all of a sudden I felt all of every bit of negative emotion I had gone, and it was replaced with this overpowering sense of peace and of love for all of humanity and everybody on the planet, regardless. And so even after the trip had faded away, after a couple of hours or whatever it was, that sense within me was there for months. And I was able to stop drinking, and I was able to start developing some other things to help me cope, to not get back to the place where I'd been. And so that I've got these other things, but these are more, these maintain, it's just a thought.
It gave you the freedom to develop new habits. It protected you for long enough to retrain yourself, is what you did.
Yeah, and if it had it come back, then I probably would have done it again, because it would have been worth it to me. I don't know.
I don't know. I've always been afraid of drugs like that because I'm afraid of whatever is dark in me taking control. And there's some darkness in me, so I don't want.
Well, I could, yeah.
You know, my buddies used to do acid and talk about all these wonderful hallucinations and all that. And all I'm thinking is, I don't know if you saw the Family Guy where he got drugged up and went into it, and everything that happened was bad. It was just a horrible.
No.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, if that happens to me, I have to live through this horror.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get away from horror, so why would I want to do a drug that could put me into a totally new imagined horror? I was never willing to try.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I don't think I'd want to try acid. People talk about how great different things are, and I don't have a desire to do any recreational drugs.
It sounds fun, but it wasn't worth the risk.
Yeah, but as I understand, with psilocybin, it is so specific in how it works.
So you can't have a bad one.
I've never heard of someone having a bad one. I'm not as experienced as other people are, but if I had to, I would do it again. Yeah, something to think about. Food for thought. Yeah, and on that note,
this is rambling.
Confessions. Yeah, so my mother will be totally scandalized when she finds out.
Today.
Oh, let them come arrest me. I don't care.
I'll bail you out.
I don't have any. I'm not in possession of anything like that.
Yeah, I know.
And they do make. By the way, they do make. They have synthetic versions of it. So I mean, you can get the mushrooms, but there are ways to procure synthetic forms that are controlled. And
so the honesty, talking about stuff that people aren't going to like, is what people should value.
Yeah.
The fact that we're sitting in here and telling about stuff that most people would never, say out loud. It should let people out there know that we're just like them.
Yeah.
We're just humans.
Yeah.
We're just another speck in the pepper shaker. We're all the same.
Right.
So why lie about what we do or don't do?
Right.
Because nobody out there could possibly help me if they don't know what I'm dealing with, and if I'm not honest, they're not going to know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and that whole experience. One of the things that I've done since then is I've tried to not hide the bad parts of myself. We often want to cover up and hide the things we've done in our past that are, and that's something I've changed in me. I try to be open. I've done some really bad things. I've hurt some people really badly and shouldn't have done it, and hopefully I won't do those again. But if we try to hide the bad things we've done, I think it leaves us more open to doing them again.
You'll never fix it.
Yeah.
Sweep it under the rug. It just keeps sweeping stuff under the rug.
It's like, oh man, my car engine's making a horrible noise. Let me turn up the radio so I can't hear it. The car's not fixed.
Maybe we can get some people to make some comments or ask some questions or something like that. Get involved,
please do.
It'd be nice if it would.
Share this. Tell if you find any interest in any part of it at all.
If you think it's boring, tell us why it's boring. Let's make it better.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like I haven't been called boring before.
Right.
I've dated.
Yeah.